Hi, I'm John Schneider with Mass Insight Education, and I'm very pleased to be joined today by one of our newest board members, one of our really enthusiastic and thoughtful board members, Paula Nassif. Paula is the Global Society Program and Partnership Manager at Wolters Kluwer Health, where she forwards the company's mission to improve the quality and effectiveness of healthcare worldwide. She began her professional career in Boston, and she worked for a leading hedge fund and several software companies in various sales, client service, and marketing roles. She is a graduate of the University of New Hampshire, where she has a degree in communications and a minor in marketing. And also, while she was a student at the University of New Hampshire, she was president of the largest student organization on the campus, the Diversity Support Coalition. Paula joined Mass Insight's board in 2019 after serving a year as a board fellow with Latinos for Education. The Latinos for Education program is a year-long training program on board membership, and we are very pleased that she was matched with Mass Insight Education. She's the second board fellow from Latinos from Education who's on our board. And Paula, welcome. It is great to have you here and to get to know you a little bit more.
Thank you, John. It's an honor to have this conversation with you and also serve on the board of Mass Insight. I'm excited to answer all your questions and also tell you a little bit more about me.
Great. Well, I actually want to learn a little bit more about your experiences at the University of New Hampshire and how you chose to attend the University of New Hampshire.
Yes, so I went to 3 different high schools and then ended up in New Hampshire, and I unfortunately, was never the straight A student. So it was always like acclimating myself to a new school because of my parents' work. And so I decided to go to a state school, and I was trying to find myself, like New Hampshire is not very diverse. And so it was really hard to make friends. It was really hard to get through school. I was also working 2 jobs and managing, and then started managing our student organization. So for me, it was really challenging. And I'm sure a lot of students right now have to pay for school and also, get by and have a lot of financial struggles. So that's what I dealt with there. But I think one of the things that really helped me was joining the Diversity Support Coalition. And for a year or 2, I ran the Latino student organization, Mosaico. And we brought capoeira to UNH. We had like Hispanic heritage events. We had events about Black History Month. So a couple other organizations, part of the Diversity Support Coalition, had events. There was a Jewish organization, there was an Asian coalition, and like just being involved, that's where I found my sense of community at UNH, and being able to help other students who, let's say they wanted to join the committee and they were like, well, I'm American. I don't fall into any of these groups. And just being able to talk to them and saying like, this is a community like for all students. And it doesn't matter if whatever color you are, whatever background you are, like you're welcome here. I think that helped me, like being a Latina and a woman of color, going to school, financing school. It's just like, it's a lot of struggling that I feel like I went through, but all of that kind of made me like not give up. I participated in a play as well. It was for girls who have considered suicide when the rainbow wasn't enough, and it was like such a touching moment in my life at UNH because I felt like as women, we all have different struggles, and especially, when we're younger and dealing with emotional issues, family issues. So participating in that play and being part of that I feel like has helped shape me as a woman, the woman that I am now.
The having a coalition, having a group that was supporting you seemed to be really key to that experience. What are some of the lessons that you learned from that you bring with you today in your work and your involvement in the community?
So I discovered at around age 15 that the greatest passion in my life was to help other people. And even if I was struggling and didn't have friends and I didn't know anyone in this huge school, I just felt like working, meeting new people, of different backgrounds, of different colors, and just engaging with them, learning about their cultures, helping them as they got through college as well. Like once I was a senior, helping freshmen, acclimate. So, that spirit of helping others and being really passionate, it's something I'm really passionate about. And I think that was the biggest thing, the sense of community that you have when you're among people who are different, but that the fact that they're different is something good and not something that is looked down upon.
You started your career in Boston, and what were some of your earlier experiences at work, and who were some of the mentors and role models that helped you along your way?
So it was challenging because for a lot of students right now who graduate, they're required several years of experience. And the only thing I had experience in was leading organizations, like youth organizations, diversity organizations. But I put all of my nonprofit work on my resume and said, this has got to count for something. But I still wasn't really getting phone calls. I started to work in hospitality to pay my college bills.
Oh, yeah.
And that's kind of where I started to meet people that, saw in me some sort of potential to become something in life, where I was always sort of faced with obstacles to get through college, to succeed in, in what we call the professional, corporate America, as a woman, as a Latina, without any experience. So I started working at the small hedge fund, and I just took any job because I just felt like I need something, to work at. And I learned a lot about finance. I learned a lot about the investment world, and it started to open my eyes that, I can really do anything. I don't need, there really is nothing that can stop me if I've come this far. And from then on, I just started to meet people who, and I mean, I've had mentors since I was probably 8 or 10, because I did struggle a lot with school. And it's those people who believed in me, who told me being different or being a different color is what is so special about you. Those people, are the ones that kind of carry you through, because you're remembering whatever they said. And I want to be that for other students, for other young professionals who are having those same thoughts that they don't belong, or that they're not good enough because they don't have experience, or they didn't get the highest test scores, which was always my problem. Too analytical. I didn't like the multiple choice questions. I was always like, all right, can I answer this, in a paragraph form? Because we all learn different. We're all so different. And our tests, the tests in college and our tests throughout life don't always consider that, some students come from completely different, socioeconomic backgrounds, and they're learning their learning issues, or the things that they need in terms of learning is so specific or so different, and it's hard to apply a one size fits all to children who are bilingual, for example, like I was, and feeling like I felt like I was held back in ESL classes while my my students that were in the same class were already learning far more things than I was. And it was just because my parents at the time didn't speak English. So I had a hard time getting English perfect. And so those types of things that, make it challenging for Latinos, students of color, students, who speak other languages to succeed in the education system that we're all supposed to succeed in.
How did you connect with Latinos for education? Because you you seem like this ideal fit for this great organization that's really training the next generation of community leaders uh, in education issues. And how did you make that connection?
So I was a busy mom. My son was like about 2 or 3 years old. I was working full time, and I
So you had a
was
lot of time on your hand.
zero time. So I decided that if I was going to spend, I've always needed this outlet. Have always been on different boards, worked in different volunteer activities. And I just got so tired of like, all right, what is next for me? Is it going to pursue my master's, or is it something that I can gain experience from and actually act on like sooner than like what it would take to complete a master's? And I found out about the program. I applied. It was a really tough interview process, and they were very selective in the people that they chose. And I didn't really meet the requirements. I think you had to have like 10 years of experience, and I had like 8 or something at the time. But the reason why was really because of my son. I felt like I didn't know enough in education policy and what was going on in education. Like my background at that time has been like finance, marketing, communications. Didn't really know enough, and I did some volunteering with Junior Achievement, and being in the classroom, meeting students of color, and just seeing like what teachers are facing, like it it really opened my eyes, and I felt like I had to do something in education. Like it was okay, forget the masters. Let's do something with the experience that you have and put that to work. And so I did the program, 6-month program. It was like going back to college. um, and I learned so much because they really want to take, in this case, Latino leaders, and working inside and outside of education, and put them on governing boards, and put them, give them a seat at the table where decisions are being made. They're not just being made about white students, they're being made about all of our students. So having a voice on Mass Insight, being the only Latina, like I'm proud of that. And hopefully my input so far kind of helps give that perspective of a woman of color or a Latina who's gone through education and felt like education failed her, but that did not stop her from continuing, and also has made me more passionate about doing more and giving back and helping people who are facing like the same insecurities, especially now with the virtual learning and students not having like the actual things that they need to finish their school or to finish whatever the education they need, the supplies, the students who have learning disabilities and speech issues, like someone that I know. And it's sad because right now the teachers are they're struggling with the virtual learning, and they're trying to do their best. But I think Latinos for Education does a great job at addressing like how the impact of the pandemic has really affected Latinos, and that sometimes at unfortunately the most disproportionate rates because of different issues around poverty and like language barriers. And yeah, I could go on.
Well, let me ask you in terms of the training and education you received as a board fellow, what's something that you learned from that experience that's been helpful with your involvement on the Mass Insight Board?
Yes. So I learned about unconscious bias. I learned about sometimes the way we communicate and how the way that we communicate can impact others, like the things that we say, learning to lead like from the heart. Like if I was going to be involved in something that was going to take time away from my son, it had to be something that was going to make a difference. And so it taught me that like a lot about board governance and like the importance of fundraising on boards. It also made me realize that there really aren't enough women or people of color on boards. And I wasn't aware of that because education, again, was never, an area of expertise. So it really opened my eyes to that. I also got very close with my son's teachers and just hearing it from the teacher perspective, like the challenges they're facing with the amount of students that they're now doing remote, in person, and all the variables. I think the board work definitely like prepared me to come in and actually bring some of that knowledge, bring the perspective of being a woman of color, a Latina, and also a student who struggled. And so I think all of that um, sort of like was like a discovery in myself at Latinos for Education. And here he is. Hi, you're gonna say hi, Luke.
Hi. That's the
He's
great
shy.
thing about, the world that we're living in now is, you know, you just have to accept
Improvise.
that and improvise, and that your son or your daughter is going to at some point come by and say hello. So,
Yes, he likes to announce himself. I'm surprised he didn't show his
you didn't
face.
introduce yourself. What is his name?
His name is Luke.
Hey, Luke. How
Oh,
are you?
he ran off with his grandmother, so but
That's
he
great.
may be back.
So, in the time that we have left, let's talk a little bit more specifically about education, and especially since we just had a visit with Luke.
Hmm.
Uh, and in your opinion, what do you think is the most significant issue affecting student learning today?
So for me, just because in the times we're living, I think the virtual learning is so hard because students are just used to the face-to-face. And a lot of students thrive with the face-to-face learning, and now having a screen in front of them for 6 or 8 hours a day, it's 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 hard for me to stay in front of the screen
Right.
for 8 hours a
Absolutely.
day. So it's a big change in in the way kids were either adjusting to this new learning environment. But I think also one of the big things that I have thought about is like poverty and bullying. um, there's studies that report that 22% of children in the US live at or below poverty level. And I just think about those students who maybe the parents aren't aware of the students, like the free lunches or the free um, community activities that the school puts on because of language issues, or and that these students who were home all this time, I feel like, with busy parents or people or in tough situations, they are definitely struggling right now. And the bullying, I feel like definitely for high school and middle school students, I don't think it's a new problem, but I feel like the influx of like social media and everything being on a screen and being online and not being able to, because of the pandemic, really connect with people, there's more reasons to like, be hateful or, be upset or be hurt. And, when students are in middle school or in high school, the only way to maybe express how they're feeling could be bullying someone or putting someone down because of their own issues that they might be facing. Um, and I think the work that Mass Insight has done around, well, I think another big thing before I get into Mass Insight, is that I felt like, I mean, at least in my career or my educational trajectory, I didn't feel like I had enough STEM or like science or math, like sort of built into the curriculum. It was more like, or maybe I just felt like the education at that time wasn't motivating maybe women to be more in STEM or to take science, math, engineering, like to take those types of classes. And I never even thought like, you know, that could be a possibility for me. And so I feel like, you know, the fact that just looking at Mass Insight, they've quadrupled the number of African American and Hispanic students scores at different schools across the state and across the country. Like, that's huge. The fact that more kids are taking AP and STEM.
Right, you're
And
talking about our AP program.
yes, the AP program. And you know, and thousands of students who've graduated from school now have been able to attend college and go after their dreams. Like personally, I never thought I would be able to place in an AP program, and because I had, you know, struggled in school. So I didn't even think that was an option or something that was even achievable, right, with my history. But I did do that for my sister because I was able to, you know, convince my parents to taking her out from like ESL classes to always, you know, she was a straight A student, to always, you know, doing things in high school so that you're prepared, so that you have those extra credits. So I was kind of like what I couldn't do with my
Right,
own
no,
situation.
that's great. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I tried
That's
to
good.
pass that on to her.
Great. Let me ask you one last question, and I know time is winding down here, but in terms of your work with Mass Insight, what role do you see for Mass Insight in the future in dealing with some of the issues that we've talked about today?
So I think the biggest thing would be just ensuring for more equitable education all around for all students. Our school improvement program, like I wish it was just mandatory in every school so that students, you know, not just one school has this great program, but that all schools have this program, that we're looking at things from that lens that not all students are the same, that they all didn't have different needs. And so I feel like Mass Insight is definitely set up to address those needs and has been doing this work for over 20 years. And it's almost like we've been sort of working behind the scenes and doing all these amazing things, but still we have so many issues that we need to keep fighting for, especially around, you know, creating opportunities for minorities and students of color, and, you know, empowering them to believe that they can take, you know, AP classes, that, you know, they can be in STEM and succeed, and all of those things are, you know, are the foundation of education, that every student should have the right to that, not that your zip code is going to determine that education, you know, the education that you deserve. And you know, and in a lot of times different community, you know, the community work that I feel like Mass Insight has done, I'm sure has created a ripple effect, you know, in other communities, and has given other students sort of that confidence that they can do it. And I feel like that's what students need the most now, especially with the world we're living in right now. You know, you can do it. You just have to push yourself, work hard, look for the resources if you're not granted them, like kind of like in my situation, and find mentors and people who believe in you.
Well, Paula, thank you. That's a great place to end. Thank you for joining me. Really thoughtful discussion. And Luke, if you're still there, thanks for joining for part of the discussion as well. And look forward to seeing you soon, Paula.
Thank you so much, John, for this opportunity. I love kind of sharing a little bit about my story and how I ended up on the board.
Yeah.
So excited to continue this work. Have a great day.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.